Okay, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I am joined by Robert Kiviat once again with an update. Welcome back, Robert.
Great to be back, Evan.
So excited. We're moving forward with this feature film, correct?
Oh, we are indeed. It's starting to pick up steam now. The holiday Thanksgiving took a little steam out of that, but here we go.
All right, so you have a few updates for us, and then we were going to cover something at the end. Might be why we have this particular background. Not to give too much away, but so what's happening with the feature film production right now?
Well, first of all, because we did run into a situation with one of our investors where he wanted to wait at least until after Thanksgiving to fund. And we decided that we will open up a little more of the investment potential, at least probably for the first week of December. So I hope, Evan, you can repost or put up the investor flyer. What is available? It's a great way to have a little part of the action moving forward on this movie. We feel the movie is going to be a very revolutionary kind of film. It's going to be seen all over the world. So remember, it's not just America. It's going to be everywhere. So like I said, if anyone contacts me in the next couple of days at the information, contact information on the flyer, we'll be able to probably work out some degree of investment potential for anyone who wants to jump in. There's only a little bit more time left. But on the other hand, we are excited about the project. The pre-production has begun. And now we're setting up the budget, Evan, where we, as you know, we're setting up the budget where we're analyzing which of the Mandela effects that everyone around the world in America have been talking about, which ones have the residual evidence to start. In other words, the residue, something in the culture that exists, whether it be on the Wayback Machine on the internet, whether it be, which I heard a little bit about today, which I'll talk a little about today, the newspapers.com, any kind of pop culture repeated over and over, like Sally Fields saying, "You like me, you really, really like me." Not one ever pop culture reference regarding Sally Fields has ever had "you like me" right now, which is kind of goofy because you figure if she did do it that way in real life and in my timeline or yours, Evan, people would be parroting that as a weird thing. "You like me right now, right now." It's like, what? Right now, meaning what? Right now doesn't make any sense. So again, we have all that pop culture references, people endlessly, famous people repeating, "You like me, you really, really like me." I even sent you last few days, a couple of days ago anyway, Robin Williams, the late Robin Williams, doing a little sketch, a little nothing thing on the on one of the shows, interview shows he was on. And he just gets up and he starts riffing and he makes this little comment like, "You like me, you really, really like me." It's like, it's almost like he just threw in all the pop culture references. You have to imagine there's no way Robin Williams is going to work that into his little dialogue if it's not so prescient in our culture. So that's one that we would go interview Sally about. We'd interview maybe her brother at CERN about. We would put the money from the budget into those type of effects, because then we can tell the full story, show the residual evidence, show what the actress says, her own, she's been on shows where she actually kind of confused everybody by saying almost both, right, Evan? So you're aware of that. So it's a good example to just look at. We want to put the money into the interview with Sally. We want to put the money into the interview with her brother, the money into tracking down some of the residual evidence, talk to some of the people that have parodied her. Not Robin Williams, obviously. He's no longer with us, but other people that remember it so vividly, like me, watching it on the, live when I saw it. There's no one's ever going to tell me it wasn't "you like me, really like me." Come on, ridiculous. But that's my timeline. So where'd I come from? Do I belong in this timeline? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, the Sally Fields. It's amazing that nobody says the correct famous line from the acceptance speech. Nobody says "you like
Not
me
one.
right now." You like, not one. Nobody parodies it or whatever correctly.
That's
it's
why,
amazing.
and that's why I think, Evan, of all the ones we've talked about and all the ones that we've talked about on your show here, it's the one that really sticks out to me because of that there isn't one example of the other alleged what happened in real life, as opposed to people misremember. And by the way, there'll be very little. I'm getting a lot of contacts from people asking me, is there going to be a lot of misremembering? Are we going to look at like these misrememberings? The answer is no, we're not. We're not going to look at things that are clearly subjective. There's no evidence of any kind to support one or the other. People may feel it's one thing or the other. We're not going to debate that with people. We're going to go with what we can actually verify.
Right. Well, believe it or not, from my investigation over the last 7 years, there's over 1,000. It's hard to say, but there's thousands of things that don't match people's memories. People have alternative shared group memories for thousands of things. And it's mind blowing. So,
we'll go through some of the ones, Evan, that are just like out there, little things that are not full blown residual evidence supported Mandela effects, but we'll cut through those really quickly. We're going to look at the ones, like I said, back to the budget. We want people to tell us, even after watching this today, what do they think? I mean, we've done some polling. You've asked people for what they think their top 10 Mandela effects are, supported by residual evidence. Very important. That's our barometer. Like courtroom lawyers, we're going in and we're saying, look, we're showing the jury what this might be. So we're not going to show them middle of the road. We're not going to show them things that are debatable. We're going to only show them things that are concrete, make the point, that are evidentiary. And so we need people to comment to us about what they think the ones would be that they have the residual evidence, but they also have other supportive evidence beyond that. So that's what we're looking at. So we want to tailor our budget, what we're going to shoot, who we're going to interview, why we're going to interview people, why we're going to talk to them. All that has to be kind of validated and verified.
Now, this is the next important part in looking at this, getting into it. So thank you, everyone, who responded with your, I think it was top 5 I asked for. You gave your top 5. Now, I felt like not everyone necessarily gave the top 5 that had the most evidence behind them, the most reality residue. But it's still really good information. And I'm sure a lot of you did give the ones you felt, because the ones that were mentioned the most have a lot of reality residue. So today, Robert and I discussed mentioning, if you were the producer, right? You want to get into that a little bit, Bob?
Sure.
We were talking about if they were the producer.
Absolutely.
So,
if you, like Evan says, if you were the producer of the show and not me and my company and Screen Media, 1091 Media, and you were just the one deciding this, which ones would you take the money from the budget and put it to that one? That means interview the person, actor, musician, talent, somebody that was involved in this Mandela effect, that would comment on whether they think the thing has been changed or not, whatever that thing was. Song, movie, scene, product, you name it. Okay. One of the ones I thought that was really intriguing that just recently crossed my purview, was the Madonna thing. I did not know that Madonna ever said her name was Madonna, like the real name. I know she had an Italian name. I know that she had a first name, she had a middle name, she had a last name. I knew that the Madonna was not her name. And to see that interview she did during the movie Desperately Seeking Susan, where she literally goes and says it in a very awkward way, like she says it, yeah, my mother's name and my name, but I don't get this authenticity come from that interview. Like she looks almost like only a little bit embarrassed to be saying it in a way, almost like she knows she's fibbing in some way. And then you have articles written about that time in 2 different newspapers where they interview her. And the reporter then writes, so-and-so, 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 Madonna, whose real name is not Madonna.
Right.
2 different reporters, and being a journalist, by trade, trade is what got me into television. You have to understand how newspaper writers work, okay? A newspaper writer is writing on a deadline. Okay, that newspaper writer is writing down every detail in their notes to write an article very quickly. Now, these apparently were like newspapers, so they probably were daily newspapers, okay? And in these daily newspapers, they have these reporters that are going to be asking questions. So, Madonna, tell us about your name, tell us about who you are. It wasn't when she was so huge, don't forget. She was coming off that first movie she was in. She had a couple of big hits, we know that. She wasn't a phenom at that point. So it was almost like just in the job of being a writer with their computer or their handwritten notes, they'd write back, who is she? What's her name? They would get that all information. They get that from her during the interview or her manager from the interview. Newspaper writers cannot work any other way. They're working real time right now. We're going to go publish this thing tonight. We're going to print it. It's going to be out tomorrow. There's not a lot of time for calling the manager, verifying the name. It's all done right there, right on the interview, right in the notes. What's your name? So these two writers wrote clearly, her name was not Madonna. So we have a huge conflict there, right? So then we would interview Madonna, hopefully, and say, Madonna, please explain this to us. Then we go interview the reporters, if we can find them. Now it's 20-something years ago, or more. So maybe 30 years ago or more. So we have to hope they're alive. They probably were young writers. Usually newspaper reporters are very young. So we assume they were young reporters. They're probably in their 50s now, like me, they're kind of like, different careers maybe now. Who knows where they are? But that's the fun part. We find the writers. Maybe they have their notes. Huh? Wouldn't it be great? They have their notes there. Notes. They open, one of those like Clark Kent, kind of a pad, and you flip the pad, and you go to your book and okay. Now I doubt that's going to happen. They're going to have the notes from 30-something years ago to the newspaper, but they may even have data to support this stuff. So then we kind of grill Madonna on this and try to explore, and that's we want to invest in something like that. That would be a great one to get into. So that's just the idea. So we want to get people to, can you match that? Can you match a Sally Field one? That doesn't have newspaper articles, but it has endless pop culture references herself. How about Dolly, with the braces on the Bond movie, right?
Yeah, the Moonraker.
Moonraker. I mean, clearly there's a commercial playing the role and showing the braces. Why would they show the braces? Well, they're going to reinvent the movie? I got to believe, and we're going to go interview the people, because we're probably going to do that one for sure. The actress, hopefully, the people that made the commercial, talk to them. Very important. So these are the ones we want to focus you on, everybody out there, so that you can see what we're looking for. Now, I think we can handle it ourselves, but we'd love to hear what you guys have to say. It's very important.
Yeah, so please comment down below this video. If you were the producer, what interviews would you say you definitely have to get, like within a reasonable amount of money? If you had a set amount of money, where would you put the money? What are the top 2 or 3 interviews that you think need to be, if you could get the people to get interviewed, need to be in this documentary? So by the way, that's the question I posed today.
And not to beat a dead horse, but since my business manager says we can open up some more of the investment potential, still, it's late in the game now. But this is what can help us. You put up even if you buy a small portion of it, if you can't put up the full amount for the package that we have for the investment, we could give you a partial one. And that helps us every 2,000, 5,000. It helps us because that's an interview to give people an idea about our budget. To interview somebody like Sally Field or people from Moonraker or anybody I'm mentioning right now, Madonna, let's say, they may not charge us. They may go, no, I see it as a very important thing to tell the public the truth on the Mandela Effect. I've heard about it, whatever, Robert, I get it. Madonna's manager might say to me, they may say, fine, come to her set where she's at right now. That's going to cost me about $3,000-$4,000 to go do that. So it's going to cost me for my camera crew, whatever. That's a big one. Madonna would be a major interview. So we want to be able to have enough money to do these. I had one of my investors try to lowball this thing. And I go, you're not going to lowball this. You can't lowball, which means try to do it on the cheap. You can't do that because they're not going to play ball. These people you have to go where they are. They're not going to drive to you. You may have to hop on a plane, may have to hop on a long journey on a car, limo, whatever. I mean, these are things that are going to cost us. So if everybody wants to see all the main people that they are, the Tom Hankses, the Kevin Costners, the Madonnas, you go right down the list. I don't have to add more. You guys all know all the famous people, musicians, actors, whatever. The entire Lucas, George Lucas crew, I mean, everybody from, James Earl Jones, who goes both ways. He also goes to the Kevin Costner movie, Field of Dreams. But you see where we're going with this? We're going to.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions for James.
Yeah. I mean, so this is not a cheap project. It's not thing we're going to, bang it out with our credit cards or something. This is a major documentary done for the theaters, we believe. Screen Media is a theater distribution company. They distribute to theaters as their main goal. And if you see in our deal with Screen Media for these movies we're making, and starting with Mandela Effect, they're putting in money and they're putting in advertising money, but they're not necessarily avoiding the theater. We are thinking about theater releases as much as any. And if you look at our deal on paper, theaters, television, all of that, and streaming, of course. Streaming is the area that kind of attracted me to this company. But now that I understand their full package, what they are, they're to release in theaters. That's what movies through Screen Media really are known for. They're a big company for that. So we want this in theaters. Now, we know people still feel weird about the theaters with, a lot of people do with the pandemic and I guess also the flu now and whatever. So yeah, there'll be a lot of cross ways people will be watching this movie. But we do believe there'll be a theater run in major cities. And that's why we cannot do this on the cheap. So any help people can give right now, I don't want to sound like I'm begging, but as a producer, when I had this major investor of mine try to lowball me and try to, come on, Bob, you can do that. That's not the point. The point is not that I can do magic with the amount of money I have, which I have for a Fox network. I've done it for NBC Universal. People can watch Aliens on the Moon, The Truth Exposed. Not a goofy show. It's very much a documentary about what NASA photographed on the moon. And you can't explain some of these structures. So I interviewed Buzz Aldrin about it, whatever. But you can look at this. It's now on shoutfactory.com. It was everywhere. NBC Universal, Sci-Fi Channel, Netflix, Amazon. It was everywhere. Now it's on Amazon and Shout Factory. So if you go to Amazon or Shout Factory, you will see Aliens on the Moon. Take a look at the quality of that show. That show was produced I got half the money to make a show like that. But I found a way to use the money that I had to create what I think is a stellar looking show. That show has a production value that people should start comparing to the Mandela Effect, what you did. And people should look at that, Evan, and say, wow, that kind of show, that kind of editing, those kind of graphics, that kind of stuff, wow, that's real Hollywood. Exactly. This is not going to be your granddaddy's, whatever they would say, a documentary. This is the real deal. Theater, feature, documentary. In theaters.
That was one of the things that really helped me get even more excited than I already was, hearing that you wanted to make this documentary film, was watching your Aliens on the Moon. I'm like, wow, this is high level production. This is high quality. I can't imagine the Mandela Effect being covered with this type of quality level of production.
And Evan, I love you saying that, but the most important person I said is Jim. I'm naming him now, Jim Martin over at Screen Media 1091. He got the connection there. Bob, this is a great story, a great subject. I can't believe no one's done this yet. And with your production value, that's what we love about this. That's what my boss loves about this. That's what I bring to the table. After all my years in television, the one thing I'd like to believe, Manny, many people have said this, I believe I create the highest value for the production money that I get, whether it be from Fox originally or NBC originally. The same thing to me. Doesn't matter. So I'm hoping that people understand that I'm not begging like a a beggar who doesn't have the ability to make a show. I want this to be the best show it can be. And and one thing I wanted to cover today, Evan, it's a new model for making documentaries for me. The former model would be you go to a meeting, let's say Fox here in LA, drive your car in, park your car in a nice lot, go up to a meeting, present your idea. They think about it for maybe a minute and they say, great, we love it. They call my lawyer, they arrange a deal, they start paying that money to me in chunks as I produce the show throughout those weeks I'm making the show. By the time the show is done, they've paid for the entire show. They air it with commercials, et cetera, et cetera. That's not this model. This model is Screen Media loves it. They're going to put up X amount of money for it. They're going to get behind it. But I have to raise the money to cover the budget, the parts that they're not covering. So I'm like an octopus. I'm producing the show. I'm raising money for the show. And this is very much like, I feel like in a film class. This is very much like, well, how was I going to put this? If I'm trying to reach an analogy that I can give you guys, but overall, the more that I can possibly get, it also means other people are going to be partners with me, partners on this, even if it's a small amount every month or every quarter that comes in revenue from the movie. You will be getting money back that you invested, and you'll be getting revenue and profits, we call it, in perpetuity forever. And that never happened in any of my shows before because they were either owned by me and the network, and that was it. Now we have an entire population that can get involved in this whole thing. So it's very important people take this seriously. It's a great opportunity for people to get involved. It really is.
Yeah, it brings to mind we're going to need a bigger boat because
Yeah.
you're trying to cover something that's worldwide. You're trying to document like one of the biggest things that happened in modern history. The Mandela Effect is so huge, and it goes across so many different topics, and like I don't know, it's crazy to even imagine. We go back and forth, but I still don't really know how you're, because you got this, you're working on it, producing this, you have an image and everything.
Not a big mystery. I mean, people could see it, no pun intended. You can go even Aliens on the Moon or any of my other shows that you can see everywhere at Amazon, whatever. Just put Robert Kiviat and you'll see all my shows. The Aliens on the Moon show is a great example because you'll see my style. I take it right on. Where is the evidence? Let's get right to the evidence. We can hear all about the ideas and the theories and whatever, but let's get to the evidence. What is it there about the Mandela Effect that rings true, that you can't deny something is going on? And so we've come across many in our talks together, Evan, and getting this together. But I know there are a lot of people out there that have their own ideas about what they would do with the money. But in my end, it's very simple. We're going to bring on the best evidence and bring on the best people to discuss that evidence, starting with the people in it. Like if a person's in a scene like Darth Vader is played by James Earl Jones, who better to hear it from than James Earl Jones, especially when he has gone on record in other interviews saying, it was Luke, I am your father. It's always been that line. Never been otherwise.
Yeah, 3 different occasions. He's been filmed saying that line that way.
Exactly. But I can't stress this enough. We are very eager to have other, investors get involved because, like I said, I'm getting a little pushback from an investor that I don't think he's seeing it clearly. This is not the kind of thing that you want to just kind of crunch together. You want to make sure it has life after it's on, after it's released. It could be on for years. And people referring to it for years, just like most of my shows are. Not all of them. They're referred to and talked about, I'm very proud of this, for years. So that's what we're talking about here. So yeah, people could say, Bob, you can get it done for X and you can make it look like for X. That's not the point. We want at least a little latitude that we can do the right job. We need to go to Europe. We need to sit down with some of the people at CERN. We need to ask them their opinion. What is going on here? Why do people suspect you might be involved? Why did Stephen Hawking accuse CERN of maybe destroying the universe potentially? I mean, Stephen Hawking, what's interesting about Stephen Hawking is he was never one to make these sensational claims. He was never that kind of guy. When he said boldly, he's very concerned that CERN could destroy our universe, people didn't know what to make of it. The Wall Street Journal thought it was so important that their headline was, it could open portals to hell. What? Why hell? Where'd that come from? Is that a religious idea? So we need to figure out what's up with CERN. And then we have to figure out what are the other possibilities. What other things could have caused this? There are people that talk about the simulation. We might interview Elon Musk about this. My understanding is about 3 years ago, before the pandemic, Elon was going public saying to people pretty much that when they're together in his home, his life, his whatever, that's what they talk about. That maybe we're in a simulation, meaning that the Mandela Effect could be glitches in the Matrix somehow. Now, I don't personally think that's a huge possibility. And what's funny is over the last couple of years, it went from, there's a trillion to whatever, massive proof that we're definitely living in a simulation based on all the ideas. And now it turns out some people that said it was like almost guaranteed, now they say it's 50-50. It's like, wait, how does it go from almost guaranteed to 50-50 in a snap of a finger? Who's to say it's not going to go from 50-50 to 0 in another year? So I don't know about the simulation idea. I sure feel like I'm real. I think I'm real. I think we're in a real place, but what dimension are we in? And then we're going to talk to people, of course, about the quantum computer. What is the quantum computer really? What's a qubit? I mean, how does a quantum computer interact with our present reality? And is it possible that you can take a piece of another dimension, pull it into this dimension, like a piece of information, according to the people behind the quantum computer a few years ago, Gordy Rose, his name is, that's what he claimed. So he's in Canada. So we'll probably have to go up to QWERTY. I believe it's called QWERTY in Canada. I think I forgot the name of the town, but I really believe that that's the next step. Get people to explain their view. If things did change, and by the way, our movie, I am positive, Evan, this movie will document there are certain changes that have actually happened, that have actually occurred, that no jury, no arbitrator, no judge would deny, that we've shown enough evidence to conclude something was one thing, and by some unbelievable weird thing, it's no longer the same. Oh, I did, by the way, reach out to my former really good friend from New York, Jeff S., we'll call him. And I want him to come and talk to me about our staring at JCPenney, invariably, maybe once every week, maybe throughout high school. We went to this mall in New York, Roosevelt Field, and we would see JCPenney right in front of us, staring at us while we wait for this bus to come. And there's no way it was he and EY at the end. There's no way. There's no way. It was a Y. It was a JCPenney. And then, of course, we find newspapers now that show that it was JCPenney at one time. We actually have now found like legal documents. This is a very interesting part of the Mandela Effect, Evan. These like companies that had patents, that had legal documents in the legal system. Those are a great treasure trove of evidences right there. And there's Chevrolet has this. JCPenney has that. You're not about to like misspell something in corporate and or legal documents. It's a big mistake if you do that.
Right. Procter and Gamble has tons of that.
So
Procter and Gamble versus whoever. I mean, it's all misspelled.
And back to the money issue again, while we're opening up the investment again, because we recognize that some of the big investors, they're just looking at the profits. But the people that are getting involved with us from the Mandela Effect community and other mysterious world, people interested in mysteries like this, it's so much more important than we realized a month or two ago, Evan, because now we realize there are people trying to see this as an economic issue. This is more than economics. Maybe it's I have an ex-wife who will say this. I have an ex-girlfriend that will say this. You got to earn money. Come on, we got to earn money. But believe me, Evan, and everyone should know this, if it was about money for me and any of the shows I've done, whether it be about the Mandela Effect, UFOs, obviously a big part of that, ghosts, miracles caught on tape, prophecies coming true or not from the Bible and things like that. If I thought this is all about money, I wouldn't be doing this for the work I do. This is not about money to me, you know. If people think that people in Hollywood, it's all about money, and in my case, I could line up the women of my life and they will say, you could make so much more money doing things with your ability and whatever, you know, but this is what I'm about, Evan. I'm about documentary, what's real, what's true. And I don't want my kids who are now teenagers and a little older, you know, college age, I don't want them to be looking at the same mysteries when they're my age going, oh, you know, dad couldn't solve it and we still don't know. How many mysteries do we have to have out there that just never get solved? I have 50 videos in just UFOs alone in my Fox specials. 50 or more, Evan, that are truly not little lights in the sky, shit craft, flying, things doing. No one's ever explained. NASA can't explain. Government can't explain. You don't have to look at these little UFO videos they released a couple of years ago, which turned out to be, they're now announcing they were military in some way, and they're not saying exactly, but they're saying, yes, we know what they were. They're not aliens. Stop that. So the New York Times had to write an article about that a few weeks ago, explaining that anybody who thought this was like aliens, they're not. See, at least that got solved to a degree. But there's 4 years now or more of people starting websites and research and blah, blah, blah. What are they going to do? Rewrite their last 4 or 5 years and realize they were chasing a shadow that was nothing really? And there are 50 videos that I've aired all over the world in my Fox shows, especially at NBC, that no one's ever answered. Why don't we get to the bottom of those? So we're getting into movies about that too. And people will see in my slate for 2023 and 24 what other movies I'm working on. So the Mandela Effect to me is right center. It's the main one that I think right now it'll tie a little into the Donald Trump phenomenon. I think someone's got, in the words, I believe Lucy and Ricky, I believe this actually happened. Lucy, you've got a lot of explaining to do, okay? I believe that was a line. I don't care what anybody says, okay? I watched the Lucy show a lot. And I got to be honest with you, that freaked me out when I heard people say about Desi Lou and about Desi Arnaz's name and all that stuff. But one of the things I'm going to say over and over is you have a lot of explaining to do if some of these things that we're looking at for the Mandela Effect turn out to be changed. But how many things are we not aware of? Changes to our military codes for all we know. Imagine, you know? Imagine you try to go to launch a weapon and it's no longer the code anymore. Who knows? Crazy. When you start thinking what the Mandela effects have been. Change of biblical verses. If you change a biblical verse, which I believe some have been changed, then what other documents in our culture, whether they be military, science, who knows what's changed? So I believe if you want to go to the ultra level, people's mentality has changed. Pretty serious.
But so when you say changed, do you believe it changed for everyone? Or do you believe it's only changing for some people?
I'm going to give people my own running, and I say this with a degree of trepidation because I'll change it if it needs to be changed. But as of right now, my theory is this. Something changed it. Whatever this timeline is, has been infected with maybe in other words, I might be from a different timeline. I might be. Maybe somehow my timeline in 2010, let's say, or earlier, in a fraction of a nanosecond, I crossed into a different time frame. And I'm trying to find out where I am. I look at Italy behind me right now. I'm telling you right now, that area called Italy was about, I would say, at least 20 to 30 degrees straighter. So you're moving it to the left and you're swinging it down to the left where Sicily is sort of now. Sicily gets moved way away from the boot, enough that you can easily see a lot of ocean between Sicily, and Italy. And then Corsica, or Sardinia, which is on the upper area there. Then you move that even to the left of where Italy will be. How do I know that? War movies I've watched endlessly, the attack of Italy, trying to free Italy from the Axis powers, from Germany and all that. Patton trying to plan his attack of Europe, of Italy from Sicily and from other areas. My view is that Italy we're looking at right now and the islands around it, that's not my world. That's not what I grew up at. When I used to go to an Italian restaurant, and I go to a lot because I'm part Italian, I'm a quarter Sicilian. I think I'm more than that, though. I think my Sicilian blood kind of took over a lot of my other blood. But I eat Italian food probably, I got to believe, once a day. I mean, pretty much. At least once a day, there's going to be something Italian in there. So even if it's a slice of pizza. If I'm in New York, there's a slice of pizza every day somewhere on the corner somewhere, right? So my view is that something has changed where when I go to a restaurant, when I was a 10-year-old kid, and I used to go to a lot of restaurants with my dad all the time, he tended to go with fancier restaurants. But if I go to the ones I could afford as a kid, a little cheaper version Italian restaurants, there's that very hokey placemat with Italy on it, Sicily, Sardinia, and it doesn't look like that. It looks like I'm telling you. That's what I stared at every meal from age maybe 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I mean, come on, how many years? I mean, dozens of years. There's no way. That's freaking me out as we do this show today. That's freaking me out. So they stay by me.
Yeah, I put this up here behind us because I myself am also a descendant of Italian immigrants to Northern California, and this here is just so wrong. I've done a lot of videos on it, but the heel is too close to Albania here.
Yeah.
The Sicily wasn't balancing on the toes. There's 2 miles here. It's called the Strait of Messina. There's 2 miles here. I would have said there should be at least 75.
There's no doubt.
75 miles.
A major boat ride, a major trip to get from
right.
Sicily.
It's just this just wasn't my reality.
Right.
And no maps on all the Italian restaurants I grew up going to or Italian clubs had Sardinia on them. None of them. And I'm going to share the screen here. I'm going to have a few.
So Evan's going to show one of those those placemat type things that people must be saying I'm out of my mind. But let me tell you right now, as a New Yorker, that is.
I'm going to show you. I'm going to bring up a few things right now that are going to be closer to what you're trying to describe, Bob. So
great.
Let's bring this up here.
Oh, by the way, just one last thing, Evan. We're going to be involving the we call it basically product placement kind of thing, but we're going to involve like some of the Italian restaurants we're talking about, where they may get some kind of a. Oh, there you go. All right.
Okay, can you see this here?
I can see.
The reason I brought this up is because this is a search for the map of Italy. And in every map of Italy, you have...
All the same. All wrong to me.
They're all wrong, and they all have Sardinia on them. See, that's a huge thing for me. This doesn't have Sicily or Sardinia, so I don't count that one. But they all have the 2 big islands next to Italy, and it just wasn't 2 big islands here next to the boot. I mean, people just say I'm ignorant of the map. Well, my family comes from here. I looked here. My mom went to high school in Japan. So I looked at Japan a lot growing up. And my dad, my brother, my grandfather were all in Korea, stationed in Korea in the military. I looked at Korea a lot, and it's not where I remember it. So what we're discussing here is not because of Bob and I have an ignorance of the map. I mean, we probably know this map here better than anyone except for the United States on the whole.
And by the way, Evan, this may be one of the freakiest Mandela effects for me that there are. And by the way, to remind people what I was saying before, if you lost my train of thought, I'm saying I'm on a different planet, so to speak. I'm on a planet that was similar to what I used to know, but there are major changes, whether it be Madonna's name, whether it be the Italian landmass and surrounding islands. It doesn't look anything close to what I remember. that's a serious thing in your mind, when you don't feel like you're from this world, so to speak, And so there's plenty of that going on for me. But apparently there's a little mixture, right? So there are some things you think you may remember that are from the other timeline. And I think that's the problem with this whole mystery. It's a blend. It's a blend.
That's
Some
what makes
things,
it difficult. That's why
right.
I asked you, do you think everyone saw JCPENNY back in 30, 40 years ago? I don't.
I'm coming to the conclusion more and more, but we haven't even finished. We have just begun the pre-production. So I reserve the right to change my opinion. But what I think what we're looking at right now is some sort of, like you were saying, Evan, a few times ago in our talks, the consciousness, our consciousness individually has been affected. Maybe physically it's hard to get our head around this, but our consciousness, our awareness, my awareness of Italy is from a different dimension, a different timeline. When there's another Earth, I feel more and more like we're looking at the way they talk about the multiverse.
Multiverse, right?
Yeah, I feel more and more that it's possible, and I say possible, that CERN or something that Stephen Hawking was referring to jiggered something, did something like this Gordy Rose talked about with the quantum computer, where you grab a piece of Italy from a different dimension and it comes into my consciousness as being changed. But in other people's consciousness, for some reason, the way this whole thing has happened, their consciousness is that this looks right. I can't explain that issue. Did I come from a different timeline? Am I literally a different Bob or Robert? Am I the same Robert? That's where things get mind-bending, right?
Right. That's the thing that seems to take people a little while looking at this, because initially they just think, well, like everything's physical and well, if it changed for everybody. But that's not what we're experiencing. These things aren't changing for everybody.
I'll tell you the funny thing, not to always talk about, like, say, UFOs as a comparison, but in terms of popularity, UFOs is a huge popularity, and Mandela Effect is creeping up on something like the UFO thing. I believe that. So we always said, like, we may not know if they're physical. There are people who say, like this one researcher, Jacques Vallée, over the years, he's gone all over the place. One minute he says UFOs are metallic craft. The next minute he says UFOs are some sort of illusionary, almost metaphysical, not even physically there, but it's like an illusion. Now the guy's like he's almost 90 years old. He's walking around with a piece of metal that he claims came from a UFO. I can't keep up with this guy. It's like, wait a minute, can I even like follow your thinking? So whether UFOs are physical, whether they're not physical, it's still a debate. But you see them on video, you have an image of it. So what are the Mandela effects? Are these effects, are they actually changes to our world or our consciousness, as you said many times? And maybe 7 billion people have a different impression of the consciousness changes that have occurred. Could you think of something that would cause more concern in the world, no pun intended, more concern in the world when we don't know what reality we're in? Pretty
Right.
serious.
No, something definitely happened, and that's what I spent last 7 years trying to enlighten people to the fact there's something happening.
And if anybody wants to know, before the pandemic, short time before the pandemic, I gave it a rest for a while. I just felt that there was not any buyers in Hollywood that were going to touch this. But then when I heard about this opportunity with Screen Media to do the direct, sort of marketing of our documentary to theaters and to televisions and streaming services and all that, directly to the public without having to convince anyone that it's important, like some executive at a network, we went forward. I just felt it wasn't the right time to distribute it yet because there weren't people who were aware of it enough in the executive realms of television and film. So this opportunity becomes huge, not only for the investment community, but for the public to see things that maybe some gatekeeper at the network didn't have to approve, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean by gatekeeper?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a downside. If you want to cover that before we end today, there's a downside to that, Evan, as well. There are people that have come into this without the credentials and the experience to be their own bosses, to know how to do good journalism. That's another story for another day.
Yes. Back to the Italy thing here. You can see this. And I'm not always sure if you're able to see as I flip
I see.
through.
Sure.
Okay, so this is what you get. This is what's on all the placemats. This is what's on all the walls. You have this here, way too much of an angle, like swoop back here.
Doesn't look right to me.
And this way too close, and this guy here. I never saw this guy here. This is what blows my mind.
Exactly.
So here I found this morning. This looks a little closer. No Sardinia, and you see a gap here. The angle, would you agree, is more correct here with the boot?
The angle's better.
So this is not exactly how I remember. There's more of a gap here. I remember more of a gap. More of a gap.
A huge gap. Let me show we're clear on this. We're talking about, if you look at that space, the little space between there, right? Imagine 3, 4, or 5 times more.
4 or 5 times that. Yeah.
The feeling would be it's not juggling on its toe. It's out there like a football, and they're going to kick it.
Yeah.
They need a little bit of room to kick back a little bit and pop it.
Yeah. Here's another one. You got more of a gap than you find right now looking at any map.
That's getting better.
So you can find these. Now that's with the Mandela Effect. The original official things change retroactively back through time.
Is that near you, that place, Little Italy?
No. I just found these randomly online. But things retroactively change back through time, right? Everything changes.
But I know for today, maybe you don't have it available, but I do believe in our research for the show, my researchers, with the help of all the community researchers out there, we will show the exact map that I'm referring to. In fact, there's one restaurant here in Orange County, California, that I'm going to go to in a few days. They have a beautiful map there. And I remember it being what I remembered. And if it looks like this, well, the way that you showed me
Unfortunately, I think you're going to get this. But take a picture if you don't get this.
I'm going.
I'll be very happy to see it.
In fact, the entire restaurant is more or less like trying to say, we are like the map of Italy. There's a big deal with this place. I'm going to go there. Food's not that great.
Okay, take a picture. I really want to see it. All right, are you ready? This is the best example of my memory coming up right here.
I can't wait.
All right, here it is. It's
I'm gonna start crying now.
Okay, so let me. Yeah. All right, this was sent to me a few years ago.
There you go, Evan. That's where we are, baby.
Right. Now look at what this is. Yeah, that's not. I even remember a little bit more.
That's close. I'll buy that. And by the way, you see where the other island sort of is? Yep.
Right, but you see how this is not highlighted. It's not really part of Italy, but it has been since 1861 now.
F that. Screw that.
Right. So I don't remember this ever being, as part of the Italian map. This is what I remember.
There's supposed to be another island. Follow that where that unfilled in shape really is. I would say a little bit lower down, just a little bit, and boom. Those are the 3 main things you knew when you saw them, when you saw your placemat at the restaurants I would go to. Now, where'd you get this?
This was sent to me.
I need to know where that came from. Anyone out there, please. The signage was painted in 2003. I want to know where this came from. It's a starting point. It's got 50% of the residual evidence that I need. 50.
Right. Yeah. This here, I think, is going to be very important. It seems to be, if you look up here, I'm on Twitter. It looks like someone tweeted this, but I went on Twitter and I couldn't find it.
We can start looking for this. Yeah, we can start looking for this. It's something we want to start tracking down. Thank you, everybody, because that's the kind of thing I want to see.
Right. So whoever sent this, if you're watching the video, please contact me because this needs to be researched. Is this the closest you've seen to your memory, Bob, right here?
Yeah, but I've seen a couple like it, including moving the other island down, whether you call it Corsica or whether you call it
Sardinia here.
Sardinia. So where's Corsica then?
Right here, the little one above Sardinia.
Got it. So I think Sardinia will come down a little bit and Corsica will be hanging out kind of like a little above that. And Corsica never really came into the picture as much for me, but I knew it was there, in terms of my history, but I knew it was there, but I didn't really look into it that much. I did see a movie recently where Corsica was presented and I was like, That's interesting. I never really saw anything with Corsica before. Oh, you know what it was? I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe it was the Anthony Bourdain show, but I'm not sure. The late Anthony Bourdain. I'm not sure though.
Okay,
I'll look into it.
so the last thing I was going to show here, what happened?
But that was a great one, and that's for the ages. That was a great one.
Yeah, that one.
Now you can see how different that is, right? Anybody can see the difference between what you just showed me and what that looks like in the Straits
Yeah,
of.
the Strait of Messina right here.
I'm
This
going to go
is-
swim that eventually. That's my goal.
you should be able to. It shouldn't be too hard. I mean, it looks. I joked in an earlier video years ago. You could throw a rock across now, but
By the way,
I
if
mean,
you bring your little pointer down a little bit, the coast of Sicily, right there, right where you were,
right
a little
here.
bit higher. If anybody wants to, like, a little lower on the coast, right there, right there, you've got to go to Catania. Everybody's got to see Catania. It's a beautiful place to be. I was there with my ex-girlfriend like a few years ago, and I want to go back. Beautiful place to be right there. The entire town is built into this mountain. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I haven't been to Sicily or Italy yet. I definitely want to get
Yeah,
there.
if you need to like just decide, it's like there, and then of course on the other side you got Palermo. But you know, if you want to just do the Palermo Catania deal, you'll have a great trip. And of course you'll drive over, but don't do your own driving because I did my own, and the roads are from 3,000 years ago. Some places in Sicily, and let me tell you what a 3,000-year-old road cobblestone can do to a wheel. You don't want to know.
I can imagine.
I
So
think
that's about it, unless there's something else you wanted to.
No, I just want to emphasize again that if anyone is interested, the investment was extended to the first week of December. Evan, if you could include the flyer again. So anyway, now with the flyer up, people can see that these are packages, and these are packages for percentages and the ability to get paid back first from we call the waterfall, when the money starts coming in from the release, be in theaters, be it in television, be it in streaming, all those revenues first come back to the investors before the producers. That's me. So basically, any investor that invests will get a 30% interest, and then we'll also get percentages on the profit based on the money they put in. So people can look at it. Any questions, they can call me, email me, send me your number, we'll call, we'll speak. Don't worry about it. Very easy to understand, no pressure from anybody. Just understand the opportunity. It's a good one. And it's only going to be around to, like I said, the first week of December. So that's it.
Okay, well, thanks for updating us, Bob, and we look forward to next time.
Thanks for all your help so far. Keep it coming. Mandela Effect's ruled by residual evidence to start, but all the other supporting evidence is important too. And help us figure out how to spend the money we're going to get from the investment community and from Screen Media. Screen Media is putting up about 20% of the money. So we all want to see the best Mandela effects we can possibly show that are not misremembering.
No, I don't think any of the legitimate alternative memories many of us share are misrememberings at all. So,
and I love Evan. One last thing. I love emails. So if you send me an email, you want to talk, chat, share your email, share your Mandela effects. I get constant calls, constant emails. You guys are great. Keep it up.
okay, thanks, Bob.
My pleasure. Bye,
Go create
everyone.
the reality that you want, everybody.